The Doomsday Mother is making plans. Her kids are turning into zombies. She shot her husband, Charles Vallow, and now she has her sister, Summer, texting back and forth with her. And one of those texts, she writes that she wants to kill someone herself, coming up. It's late August of 2019. Before we move forward, let's talk a little bit about Summer Shiflett, which is Lori Vallow's sister. According to investigators, they found texts between Summer and Lori before Charles was shot. Summer was helping Lori out, even said in a text that she wanted to kill him herself, though we're not sure who him is. Then Summer offered to run an interference. Lori Vallow texts Summer back and tells her that she needs her safe. The tone of her texts here are very similar to how she speaks to Melenie Boudreaux, which makes you wonder, was Summer pretending to be part of Lori's little group? What was going on with that? Was Summer part of this group at the beginning? Especially after Charles was shot, Summer talks to police and investigators and makes it seem as if Charles is a very dangerous person and Lori was scared of him. Summer even admitted that she had part in why the reason for Alex Cox staying with Lori, but that doesn't seem to add up. If you remember what Adam said when he talked to Alex Cox, there didn't seem to be many plans at all. Adam was going to spend a night with Alex, but suddenly Alex wasn't there. Summer made it seem as though Charles were making threats to Lori, but the truth of the matter was, it was Lori who was making the death threats. Something that many friends and her family have heard her do before, especially with people like Joe Ryan. Also, right before Charles was shot, Lori mentioned the fact that she had a protective angel, and we know now that protective angel was Alex Cox, her brother. The reality of Summer is that she was doing whatever she needed to do to take Lori's side, to protect her, no matter if it's true or false. The entire family knows that Charles has never been a threat to Lori or anyone else for that matter. Charles had been a great support to Lori. He made the biggest difference in Lori's life. She was the best Lori she could be while married to Charles. Lori, who is made out to be a very close family member who likes to, attend events with her family, well, that's not quite true either, because every time that Lori Vallow was married, she never invited her family members. Summer absolutely was aware that Lori claimed to be a translated being and that her odd religious interests were at their peak. They were at their peak before she met Chad Daybell. And the fact that Summer continued to support her sister Lori during this very crucial time in her life and her children's lives, knowing, there was deaths happening. Charles was dead, and there was no remorse for that. What Summer didn't realize is that Lori doesn't support her or her mother Janice, her dad Barry, not her brothers, not her cousins, not anyone. Something that is all too familiar to them, but refused to acknowledge that. Lori had done this to her family for each man that she ever married. There's no doubt in my mind that Lori Vallow is extremely excited for her future around this time. She is writing in her journal about her intimate experiences with Jesus, God, angels, and spirits. What a lot of people don't realize is she seems to be adding in quite a few lies as well. One being her near-death experience no one ever heard about. No one had told a soul about this, and no one is sure how Lori come up with that. What is that near-death experience? We already talked about it the last podcast, but I'm kind of doing a review here. It's when she gave birth to her second child, Tylee Ryan. She said once the IV was inserted, she had died, that she went to heaven. She seen her sister. She was in the room. And you have to listen to the other podcast for more details. This story is important to her. That's one thing I know. But no one will know about it until she reads it in her statement at her trial 2023. It is just one of the many, many lies that Lori tells throughout her lifetime. Around this time, Lori Vallow's co-conspirator, deceitful author, and lover, Chad Daybell, offered to be her ghost writer. We know this. Chad Daybell was ghostwriting for several of the people he published in his book company. A lot of people are wondering why, did somebody like Lori she's a pretty attractive girl. Why is she interested in Chad Daybell? It doesn't seem to fit the type of person she would be interested in. For myself, my research points to the fact that possibly one of her main interests in Chad Daybell was because he was an author and that he can make and change her life to be completely different than the life she's living this day. He was perfect for feeding her lies to the world. And we know how much it means to her because she has decided to do this, all these things that she's doing without remorse or concern, to the fact that she killed her husband 13 years and destroyed her own children's lives. Their turn on this earth for her freedom. I think she believes that she could become a mother figure to the world, whether they like it or not. And here's one of the problems while doing this research, and I know for you as well, most likely, is we can't be sure if Lori believes most of this stuff that she spews, or is she just using it to manipulate others? And I can tell you, we did get a hint, which we'll talk about shortly. One of the girls that was in this group in October, Aubrey, she suggested that Lori come up to her and told her that she was naive. So I believe that Lori doesn't believe the majority of it. Instead, I think she enjoys the fantasy side of it, and that's why she reads this Visions of Glory books so often. Because she's working on building her own temple. That's my personal opinion of what her goal is. Most people can't figure out the goal. They think it's those few dollars coming from the kids. I just don't believe that. Now remember, Melenie Gibb, Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell, Julie Rowe, many people are teaching that you can live multiple lives here on Earth and throughout the universe. And we learned that Zulema herself believed that she had lived on the Earth at least 4 times alone. At the end of August, we know somewhere in between mid-August and the end of August, Chad Daybell makes a visit to Lori Vallow's home where she shot her husband, Charles. We know that they invited Zulema over, and Zulema testified to this at Chad Daybell's trial recently. It's around that time that Zulema is showing interest in dating Alex Cox, Lori Vallow's brother and angel protector. And how she learns a lot of this is through blessings that Chad gives her during that time.
And at the time you were there in August, were JJ and Tylee there? Yes. Do you recall anyone talking about JJ dying young or dying soon?
Yeah, during this meeting, Chad said that JJ was going to die young, that he was probably going to die soon, and that he was going to come right back to Earth as Colby's son.
And who is Colby?
Lori's son.
Before Lori Vallow met Chad Daybell, she was saying things about Tylee Ryan might be the reincarnation of her sister Stacy. That's important information to understand what Lori's thinking around this time and who is pushing who. Remember, Lori Vallow was listening to Julie Rowe before she met Chad Daybell. So don't let any media or any documentary tell you otherwise. So now you have Colby, who's having a baby. He's already had one baby. And Chad's telling them that this new baby is going to be a reincarnated J.J. Vallow. What a beautiful excuse to show that if J.J. passes away, he's not really passed away. At least to them, they think this is a good excuse. I don't get it, but okay.
At that meeting in August, do you recall getting a blessing?
Yes.
Who gave you the blessing?
Chad.
Do you recall some of what he said in the blessing?
Yes, in this blessing, he said that he was speaking from the things that Jesus Christ was telling him to say, and that I needed to move to Rexburg. And that I was going to get married soon.
At that time, did you have any ties to Rexburg?
None.
Do you recall Alex receiving a blessing?
Yes, I was not there for his blessing because I got there late. But Alex told me about what Chad had told him in his blessing.
What did Alex relay to you?
He said that he had also told him to move to Rexburg and that he was going to be a warrior and that he was going to be one of the warriors that was going to fight because there was going to be invasions from other countries into the United States, and that Rexburg was going to be a place of safety, and that Alex was going to play a key role in being one of the warriors and defenders of that area.
How did Alex seem to feel about that information?
He bought into it 100%, so much that Chad was leaving the following day to go back to Rexburg, and right then and then Alex booked a flight to come back to Rexburg with Chad so that he could see the sights and see where he was going to be moving.
Did Chad share with you why Rexburg? Was there something special about Rexburg?
Yeah, he said that it was a place of refuge. He said that the church had designed this area to be like a second headquarters.
During that August visit, did you observe Chad and Alex together?
Yeah. they were talking to each other, and like they were acting as if they were, good friends.
Had you seen that type of interaction between the two of them before?
No.
And this is shortly after Charles' death?
Yes, this is right after Charles passed away.
And who was it that could discern light and dark, if someone was light and dark?
Chad.
At some point, did you hear the term zombie?
Yes.
Do you recall who introduced that term or where you heard it?
I think the first time I ever heard it was at lunch with Gibb at Fireburst in February of 2019. But then the term kept coming up in regards to people being possessed.
Now, you heard her say, I forgot to pick up the mic, guys. You heard her say that she was having lunch with Gibb. Now, a lot of people believe that Melenie Gibb has a lot to do with that zombie term. But if you go back and watch the interviews, especially with Nate Eden, you'll find out that she was trying to act as if that was the craziest thing she ever heard. But I don't believe that's true, not a little bit. In fact, I hope investigators are keeping a close eye on Melenie Gibb. I hope the church understands the kind of Satan they're dealing with. Zulema believes that Alex Cox believes this nonsense 100%, but does he really? I often wonder if he's just having fun with it. At the same time, he's supporting his sister, Lori. Maybe he doesn't want her to seem crazy. But this is an awful long way to jump towards a cliff. I just don't get it. There's something majorly missing. Several things missing in this story. Zulema actually was telling the truth for once, and I enjoyed every minute of it. It relieved a lot of tension and a lot of dissatisfaction that I had for her. So again, Melenie Gibb seems to play a large role in a lot of these things that are being taught. Even John Pryor, at the very beginning when this case started off, when you heard it was Means say, post that picture showing rats running, and then kind of called out Melenie Gibb, you know there's something more going on that they probably can't say that might cause them more trouble if they do. If I were Lori Vallow and I'm in that situation, I'm going to sing. Now, Alex Cox was very familiar with the term zombie, and we'll listen in more on Zulema's testimony.
In regards to people being possessed.
Did Alex believe that there were zombies?
Oh, yeah.
Did Alex ever say anything to you about what he would want done if he became a zombie?
He told me, Zulema, if I ever turn into a zombie, just shoot me in the face.
Did you learn that Lori eventually moved to Rexburg?
Yes.
Do you know who moved with her when she went?
Tylee, JJ, and Alex.
So during Zulema's, you could call it an interrogation, but cross with John Pryor, he finds out something quite interesting a lot of us hadn't heard about.
Pastenes, we were on the subject earlier about castings, and is it your understanding that Chad and Lori never spoke of killing a body during a casting? Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. However, it's also your understanding that if a casting is successful and the spirit leaves, it's your understanding that the body dies? Is that what you understand?
Correct.
So what I'm confused about is that you spoke earlier about Charles, and you were involved in one of the first castings with him. Is that right?
Yes.
And who was present for that casting?
The first time that there was casting done on Charles, it was Christina, Nicole, Serena, Gibb, Lori, and I.
So almost the entire 7 gatherers.
Yes.
And was this a 7 gatherer casting that was that you folks had organized?
I don't believe that the email address had been created yet at that time.
Okay. And again, in terms of the 7 gatherers, is it your testimony that Gmail originally, when that account was created, that you used that account regularly?
It was used for a little bit. I couldn't tell you how many times or for how many documents were shared in there. I know that it was used, but I can't exactly tell you how many numbers of documents were in there.
Not necessarily a number of documents is what I'm looking for, but rather a description of how often that was used. Would you say that it was used frequently?
Probably.
Okay, thank you. Now, let's go back to the issue with the casting of Charles Vallow. And you mentioned that at least 5 or 6 of the 7 gatherers were there engaging in that casting. Is that right?
Yes.
And one of those members of the 7 gatherers was Melenie Gibb, correct?
Yes.
And was Melenie Gibb running that casting?
No.
Lori Vallow?
Yes.
Okay. And at the time, you had indicated that casting was successful. Is that right?
When Lori called Chad to ask if it had been successful, she returned with saying that it had been successful.
And do you remember when that first casting was?
It was towards the end of March of 2019.
And at the successful completion of that casting, did you get notice that Charles Vallow died as a result of that successful casting?
So I think that the things that Chad and Lori were teaching was that the person that the person had already died originally, and that there was a 2-minute window where an evil spirit could come into that spirit, into that body. So in actuality, what they were teaching was that the body was already dead, and it was being occupied by a evil spirit. So I guess it would be more accurate to say that if a casting worked, then the body would finally die naturally.
So what she's referring to here is, sorry about that, guys, is that's why a lot of people say, what does zombies mean? Well, now you understand why they're referred to as zombies. Because it's a body that's dead, that's walking around with another entity inside operating it. It was interesting that John Pryor asked Zulema if Melenie Gibb was running this casting. And the reason why that's interesting is, how did John Pryor find out this kind of information? Well, from his client. I mean, this is something that Chad Daybell is suggesting. Chad Daybell is suggesting that Melenie Gibb played a huge part in the castings. Not just Lori, not just himself, but Melenie.
So if a body would finally die naturally, then when the casting was successful, Charles Vallow didn't die, though. Did he?
Are you asking about the spirit or are you asking about the body?
I'm asking about the body.
The body. Okay, so the body would have been the body of Charles Vallow, but it would have been occupied by an evil spirit.
Right. Then there was a second casting, correct?
Correct.
And at that point, and again, that was a successful casting of Charles Vallow's body again, correct?
According to Chad and Lori, yes.
Okay. And when you say according to Chad and Lori, isn't it true, ma'am, that almost all of the information you got was from Lori Vallow claiming Chad made a comment about a certain topic?
Correct.
And it wasn't really Chad who spoke to you about any of these things. It was Lori Vallow who was telling you about all of this casting and energy work, correct?
Not all of it. What came through her, some stuff came through Chad as well.
Okay, well, let me rephrase that then. The vast majority of the information you received was from Lori Vallow claiming to say what Chad Daybell told her. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
I think the most interesting thing of Zulema's testimony is the fact that we hear how Lori reconciled with Charles Vallow for one reason, and that was to get their finances straight. If he had any finances left, remember, she had already taken over $30,000 just back in the end of January, I think it is, at least February, without any remorse whatsoever that she had left that man to die, drown, whatever you want to call it. So this gives you an idea of her character. So she can suck up to whoever she wants to suck up to, and she knows she can get them back in her life. She thinks she can manipulate them to get what she wants. Once she gets what she wants, it's over with. The fact that Lori Vallow doesn't have a best friend, really, her entire lifetime. I mean, there's just nobody that can come forward and say, yeah, Lori was truly a good friend to have in my life. Because anything Lori did for anyone was for some kind of something she expected back. To me, it seemed like Lori didn't take anybody's relationship seriously and didn't bond with people very well. I think people felt that she did, but she didn't. And you know this by when she gets married and doesn't care if her family's there or not, or if they're involved. How Lori acts as a mother. She's taking JJ to go do all these things that look like a great mother. All the while, she's planning their death. She looks like a great mom doing it, though. Now, she's also being a matchmaker with her lover, Chad Daybell. So they're matching up couples. Who are they matching up? Well, they're matching up Alex Cox and Zulema. They go on their first date around this time. At the same time, Chad is teaching this crazy notion that the end of the world is here. And when someone that is interested in taking this up very seriously, such as Lori Vallow, he was a great companion for this future fantasy. She could make everything he wanted become a reality. So he was getting more than sex. I mean, Lori Vallow was the type of girl, she wanted something to happen, she's going to make it happen. And that's exactly what Chad needed in his life. When Lori Vallow came into his life, his book sales picked up tremendously. And for Chad, we've already heard this text where Chad Daybell refers to himself as Harry Potter. He is trapped in a closet underneath the stairs, only to be able to come out every few weeks. A lot of texts, according to investigators, that are very romantic, sometimes inherently sexual. And according to Hart, said they often referred to Chad Daybell's private area as the Storm. And the discussion of demons and evil spirits and rankings, well, they're just progressing. Investigators were able to pull about 4,500 text messages from those accounts, and they were able to piece together basically the timeline of this relationship and how this nightmare started and ended. This is where things are going to turn incredibly dark. And so we're going to have to stop here, but we're going to pick up at the end of August 2019, where Colby Ryan learns that his mom planned to move to Arizona, even taking Tylee and JJ with her. Please, guys, make sure that you share a missing face on your social media today. I would appreciate that so much. And if you enjoy the hard work that I've done here, please take a moment to subscribe, like, and comment. I would really appreciate a share. The next few pieces of the series will be mostly audio. I will be sharing your comments, so make sure that you comment below and I'll share it. Love you guys, and I'll see you guys soon.